Good afternoon, everyone, and this is Ibrahim Nawaz reporting from XYZ News. Today, we're going to have a report on COVID 19. So, first, we're going to look at the origin and structure, okay? We're going to talk about the origin of COVID 19. So, although coronaviruses have been present for nearly a century, the COVID that we know today had evolved from the SARS-CoV-2, which is the severe acute respiratory syndrome, and the first recorded pandemic of SARS-CoV-2 was in Wuhan, China, in 2003, and in 2019 it had broken out again in Wuhan. And where exactly did it come from? A lot of scientists say that it came from a bat that got the zoonotic virus, and the bat was held in the Wuhan live animal seafood market, which caused the virus to spread. The SARS-CoV-2 belongs to the Coronaviridae family of viruses and is more than 75% similar to the SARS-CoV. Also, SARS-CoV-2 is capable of animal-to-human transmission, human-to-human transmission, and animal-to-animal transmission through an intermediate host or a natural reservoir. Okay, so next we're going to talk about some of these structures of the virus. So the main components of the SARS-CoV-2 is, first, we have the RNA, which is the single-stranded genetic material of the virus. Next, we have the nucleoproteins, which are basically proteins that help the virus replicate and give it structure. Next, we have the viral envelope, which is basically a membrane of fat molecules that surrounds the virus, and it protects it when it's outside the host cell. And when the virus is infecting a cell, it basically anchors structures that need to help it when it's infecting. Next, we have envelope proteins. So these are basically proteins that are fixed into the viral envelope that help build the virus's particles, help build new virus particles. Next, we have spike proteins. So this is basically the structure that you see in most diagrams of the COVID virus, of the coronavirus. You see those small spikes on the outer sides. Those are basically structures that let the virus hook onto host cells and break it open for infection. Now we're gonna talk about the history of COVID, and we're gonna go over some of the statistics. So, coronaviruses have been known to cause respiratory infections in animals and humans since the 1980s, and the first cases of COVID were reported in December 2019 in Wuhan, China, which was basically when the outbreak occurred. And the virus quickly spread through China and then to other countries around the world. And the World Health Organization, the WHO, declared a global pandemic in March of 2020. Governments and public health officials around the world implemented a variety of measures to try and slow the spread of the virus, including lockdowns, quarantines, and social distancing and mask mandates. The development of vaccines against COVID-19 has been a major focus of global efforts to combat the pandemic, with several vaccines approved for emergency use around the world beginning in late 2020. And now I'm going to give it over to researcher Shoaib Mustafa to go over a map of the deaths and cases in different parts of the world.
Hello, my name is researcher Shoaib, and I'm going to be presenting the map of deaths and cases of COVID-19 throughout the world. But since we can't go throughout the entire world, I'm only going to be talking about 5 places, which is North America, South America, Europe, China, and South Africa. In North America, there is a whopping number of 1.5 million deaths and 115.9 cases of COVID. And in South America, there is 1.3 million deaths and 67.3 million cases. In Europe, there is 2 million deaths, around 2 million deaths, and over 243 million cases. In China, which is the source of COVID, as people believe, there is 4.9 million deaths and 101,000 cases. However, in South Africa, there are 4 million deaths and 102,000 cases. From here we can see that, of course, since China is the origin of where COVID started, as many scientists and researchers believe, because COVID is really strong over there as it's the origin, so that's why there's not many cases, because most of the cases led to death. So now we're going to talk about this graph. In this graph, it shows the cases that have been shown from February 11, 2023 to May 10, 2023. This data has been collected from ourworldindata.org. And the reason why it stops at May 10, 2023 is because it is believed that that the pandemic, the CDC has declared the pandemic to be over around May 10, 2023. So they stopped COVID. Hello guys, it's researcher Shoaib here, talking about the effects and dangers of COVID in your body. According to a Harvard University, COVID can affect your brain by quote-unquote develop encephalitis, inflammation of the brain, causing confusion, difficulty concentration, and memory problems. COVID can also trigger the onset of new psychological disorders such as severe depression and anxiety. According to another study done at Johns Hopkins Medicine, COVID-19 can affect the heart in multiple ways, such as lack of oxygen, myocarditis, inflammation of the heart, damage to blood vessels, and stress cardiomyopathy. While not everyone who contains the virus will experience heart while not everyone who has the virus will experience heart complications, the risk is higher for those with pre-existing heart disease or other risk factors. Johns Hopkins Medicine also says that COVID-19 can cause lung complications such as pneumonia and, in most severe cases, acute respiratory stress syndrome, or ARDS, sepsis, another possible complication of COVID-19, which can also cause harm to the lungs and other organs. The National Library of Medicine talks about COVID on the intestines. It concludes that COVID can present with a variety of GI symptoms such as diarrhea, anorexia, and vomiting, and can also be associated with several conditions, including liver injury, GI bleeding, and acute pancreatitis. And now we're going to be talking about the dangers of COVID-19. The dangerous thing about COVID-19 is that it's really fatal because there are over 8 million recorded deaths. COVID-19 is really easy to catch as there are underlying health conditions which make it easier to get. Some of them include lung cancer, weak immune system, and diabetes. In some cases, however, COVID may cause you to get problems. This can go the other way around. COVID can also get you health issues such as pneumonia and multi-organ effects on the heart, lung, brain, and kidney. People who experience a lot of stress because of the COVID, they may also be experiencing depression or anxiety. And that's all from me. No. Number 15. I forgot. Burger King foot lettuce.
But researcher Shoaib just talked about the effects of COVID-19 on your body. And now we're going to go over some of the dangers of COVID-19. So one of the dangerous thing about COVID-19 is that in some cases, or in about 25% of the cases, it may be fatal. And COVID-19 is very easy to catch as underlying health conditions make it easier to catch the virus. So there are some health conditions that give you a higher chance of COVID, and we're going to give you some examples. Some of the health conditions that give you a higher chance of getting COVID are obesity, lung cancer, weak immune system, coronary artery disease, diabetes, AIDS treatment, severe and moderate asthma. In some cases, COVID can cause you to get health issues such as pneumonia, and long-term COVID can cause multi-organal effects on the heart, lung, skin, brain, and kidney. Some people who experience a lot of stress from long-term COVID may develop PTSD. Now we're going to talk about symptoms of COVID-19. So there are many different symptoms a person with COVID can have. But first, how does he get the symptoms? According to the CDC, COVID-19 spreads when an infected person breathes out droplets and very small particles that contain the virus. Breathing in the droplets or letting droplets come in contact with eyes, nose, or mouth transmits the virus into your body. So after around 9 to 10 days, symptoms start to develop, and here are some of the COVID symptoms. Fever, loss of taste or smell, muscle aching, sore throat, vomiting, and fatigue. If you were exposed to the virus, CDC recommends that you wear a face mask and isolate yourself for around 10 days. If symptoms show, you should continue to keep yourself in isolation and quarantine, but if not, you're free to do as you wish. Now we're gonna discuss some of the symptoms of COVID-19. So as soon as COVID hit, you may have started hearing the term quarantine and social distancing more, and both of these are actually prevention methods that help you keep away from the spread of COVID. And there are many different ways to prevent getting COVID. And here are a few prevention tips. So the first thing is wear a face mask, either surgical N95 or KN95. You should avoid very crowded areas such as like cruises, theme parks, and parties. And you should distance yourself from people who are exposed to the virus or who have the virus. And even if there's a small crowd, you should always practice social distancing. And there were never really any discovered cures, but there are some treatments available for patients, and some of the treatments are like home treatments such as taking over-the-counter medications. And there's always vaccines that either kill the virus or stop them from replicating. And some of those vaccines are, the most prominent ones are Pfizer, Moderna, Covishield, and Johnson & Johnson. XYZ News is supported by you and our proud sponsor, Glue and Go.
Have you ever had a long day and you decided to stick a piece of paper to your fridge because you had to wash your hands? But it just wouldn't work no matter how hard you tried. If this is so, then you can try a new product, Glue and Go. It can easily fix all of these problems. Look at this guy. He's so happy now that his Glue and Go works. And he's now figuring out that it can stick multiple times. This miniature paper contains microtechnology sticking residue that can stick to anything. This includes, but not limited to, your wall, your hall, and your ball. Side effects may include diarrhea, COVID-19, lung cancer, and severe depression. Buy yours now at the nearest electrical car fueling station. Glue and Go. Stick papers and go. Hi, I'm Researcher Shoaib Mustafa, and today we're going to be continuing the topic of COVID-19. And we're going to be talking about the virus spreading and the suspectable ages for it. According to CDC, older adults are at a higher risk of getting very sick from COVID-19. More than 81% of COVID-19 deaths occur in people of over age of 65. The number of deaths among people over age 65 is 97 times higher than the number of deaths among people ages 18 to 29 years. COVID-19 is caused by SARS-CoV-2 and primarily spreads through respiratory droplets or uncontaminated surfaces. Older adults and those with underlying health conditions are at a higher risk of severe illnesses and deaths. COVID-19, however, can still cause severe illnesses and death in younger people. And now I'm going to pass it to researcher Abdurrahim Baban on fun facts.
Yo, what's up? It's Abdurrahim from XYZ News, and today we're going to be talking about some fun facts of coronavirus. Now, I got these coronavirus fun facts from vision.org, worldvision.org. So first fun fact, coronavirus was first identified on December 31st, 2019 because of some Chinese people eating bats. Now we're gonna go on to COVID-19 is the first pandemic since the 2009 swine flu H1N1 pandemic. Unlike COVID-19, H1N1 mostly affected children and young adults. So we're just gonna move on to another fun fact. In less than 2 years, 100 million more children fell into poverty, a 10% increase since 2019. So I think these are like places in like poor places like Africa and stuff like that, where this occurred. And now we're gonna move on to another fun fact. Experts estimate that the COVID-19 pandemic added an additional 83 to 132 million people to the ranks of the undernourished in 2020 alone. And more than 13.2 billion vaccine doses have been administered around the world, including in the United States as of February 2023. So these vaccines include like the Pfizer, Moderna, and many other vaccines that people have taken. All right, let's close it up, inshallah.
We're gonna interview him. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Wow, really cool bike. I just wanted to ask you, what do you do for a living?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I own a coconut plantation.
Oh, really? So, I just had a couple questions about how COVID affected your coconut plantation. So, what do you think the effect of COVID on your coconut plantation was?
So, basically, we had to lay out a bunch of workers because of the dangers of COVID-19 and what it can do to the labor force. So, we required tests for the people who are willing to work in our plantations so that everybody is safe while working.
Okay. What exactly? How did it affect the sale of your coconuts?
So definitely the sale decreased. We also had to decrease what's it called, the price of the coconuts because no one's like really buying them, right? So like, why would we have such a high price?
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for the information. Have a good day.
no problem.
Are we at the plantation?
Yeah.
All right, let's hop off. So this is your coconut plantation. Can you show me around?
So we have many varieties of different coconut plants, and what are you doing over here? Didn't I unemploy you?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I actually have some questions for you. So are you unemployed or no?
I'm unemployed.
Okay. So how has COVID-19 affected you?
My company laid me off because of the risk factors.
With COVID-19?
Yeah.
And how does that affect your income?
No money.
No money?
No.
And do you think you were laid off for a reason? Did you get positive on any tests, and what are your symptoms, if so?
I didn't get positive on any tests, but I was coughing a lot.
Stay tuned on the XYZ News channel for more information about COVID-19. Now see you on the next news broadcast.